Buongiorno, buon pomeriggio, and buonasera. Lazio World, welcome to our instant reaction pod. Consider this stoppage time, and how great is stoppage time for this club in Champions League. I'm here to chat about the Celtic Lazio match that just finished in dramatic fashion once more. This time, a victory, all 3 points for Lazio. I'm your host, Shawn McIntosh. I'm riding this one solo today. But wow, what an incredible finish. Match day 2 for Lazio against Celtic in Scotland on the road in a very difficult place to play. And this one started in negative fashion for Lazio, with us conceding in pretty poor fashion. We see us conceding at the 12th minute with some defensive work that you can only describe as absolute Swiss cheese, because we saw Hisai give up a run, and then Romagnoli on his heels. Provedel, certainly not his finest moment, and here we are at Celtic Park down 1-0, and Laziali have to question, what's going to happen, because we haven't been able to produce, and we've seen this side put their heads down and get demoralized when going down. But different story in Champions League, apparently, because I loved the reaction from us after going down a goal. I thought we did well to respond. I thought there was an energy. And, my 3 words to describe this match, I mean, you got to look at how it finishes. So my 3 words: stoppage time killers, because I guess that's who we are in this competition. But, looking at the match in its entirety, I just thought there was a bounce back, and it was good to see. And going down, unfortunately, it took us going down to see us pick it up a little bit. I thought in terms of where this match was won, I thought we did really well to put Celtic in pressured situations. I thought they did a really poor job playing the ball out of the back. I thought they were sloppy. I thought we did a nice job to pounce on the ball when they were sloppy with it. Unfortunately, we were tremendously wasteful with all of the opportunities we were presented with, and I think for me that is unfortunately a takeaway from this match, was how poor we were when given opportunities. I mean, again, time and time again, we were able to press Celtic into turning the ball over, and we just weren't able to do a ton with it. But we were able to bounce back, and in the 29th minute, we saw Vecino off of a corner, which struck the head of Romagnoli straight to Vecino, who finishes and levels the match. And for us, at that point, it was a fairly even contested match. I mean, shots, Celtic with the advantage there, 11 shots to Lazio's 9. 4 of those on target for Celtic, 3 of those on target for Lazio. Celtic did take the possession game, 56% for them to our 44%. But I think by and large, fairly even. I think, Lazio, certainly given the way that they approached this match once they leveled it, and with the substitutions late in the match, I think we were perfectly content to walk away with a draw. And honestly, I would have been absolutely fine with it, certainly given some of the chances that Celtic had in the match. Obviously, a goal being ruled offside at what I thought would have been the death at the 81st minute near post. for us, very fortunate that it went to VAR. You gotta love that Palma celebrated, looking like a complete fool, after it was ruled offside and receiving the yellow. And I thought there were a lot of things that we certainly got wrong, but you walk away exhilarated with the 3 points in a position now to there's still a lot of work to be done, but you are in a favorable position to finish the group in second or better if we are dreaming. But I think when we look at our players that performed well, for me, in terms of man of the match, I loved what Vecino brought, and he continues to be a story of this season. I mean, by and large, most of his performances have been really, really strong. He brings a balance in that midfield. And I'll be honest, I wanted to see Rovella in that regista role. So I was a little bit disappointed to not see him there, but I understood, particularly having Luis and Kamada as your mezzalas, having somebody like Vecino, and the match got physical pretty early on. I was worried because the ref was allowing that physicality to continue, and he wasn't booking anybody. And so having a player like Vecino who can be physical and help boss that midfield, for me was my man of the match. Obviously coming up big with the goal that leveled this one, but I thought he did really well. And Luis played a strong match as well. I thought it was definitely a bounce back match for Luis Alberto. I mean, the way he was switching the ball, putting it on an absolute dime for Felipe Anderson on a couple of moments. And I thought he did well to put in a defensive shift, and it's what you want to see from Luis Alberto. So, those two really stood out for me. And on the flip side, we've got to talk about the disastrous performance by Felipe Anderson. I thought for me, he was my bidone of the match. And I don't know what it is with Felipe. I will say he does so much on the defensive side of things, to his credit. I mean, he does fight back and he does win balls, but for a side that is struggling to create opportunities and really create combination play, and we're seeing most of our opportunities come from pressing and creating some turnovers, and then bam, we've got to be able to then make teams pay for turning the ball over. And Felipe was the catalyst for wasteful opportunities tonight, and he hasn't been particularly strong this entire campaign so far. I mean, I think he's had one good match for us, and this Lazio side seems to live and die by what happens with Felipe Anderson, and we've got to find a way to unlock him. I mean, again, we're so hard trodden to find opportunities that when we get them, we've just got to be more clinical. I thought there were a number of opportunities for us that we continue to waste. But the positive was that I thought we were a lot more threatening, particularly in the first half. I thought the second half didn't look as strong for us when it came to what we were doing in the attack. But Kamada, I thought was pretty poor for a lot of the first half. But I was quite excited to see him shift over to Luis Alberto's role, something that I know Caleb and I have talked about wanting to see, an opportunity for Luis Alberto to take a break. I wanted to see Kamada start in Luis Alberto's role. So it was quite intriguing that when the sub was made for Luis Alberto and you saw Guendouzi come in, then Kamada switch over to Luis's role. 2 minutes later, 69th minute, immediately Kamada makes a really nice run and then takes a strike from just outside the box and really tests Joe Hart. And I thought that was a sign of things that we could potentially see if given the opportunity to rest Luis Alberto, try out Kamada in that role. For me, I've said it. I think the ideal midfield, something that I would love to see, not necessarily ideal, because again, Luis Alberto is our magician, but I would love for us to test out a Kamada, Rovella, and Guendouzi midfield. And speaking of Guendouzi, comes in and just takes advantage of an opportunity with a cross in the 95th minute that finds Pedro, who seals the deal in dramatic fashion. And what a ball that was, and certainly what a finish. And we had to hold our breaths to see if that goal stood, and fortunately it did. And we find ourselves in a great position now. So when I think about what this team needs to do moving forward, I think that we've got to look at some new starting 11s for sure. I think given what Felipe Anderson has looked like, and Isaacson, look, in his first appearance in the starting 11, he didn't look great, but I think it's worth an opportunity for him, particularly this Sunday against Atalanta, to potentially sit Felipe Anderson, give him a rest, and see what Isaacson can do. But what an absolute thrilling match. I thought it was, even just taking a step back and looking at it as a football fan, it was a fun one to watch. There was a ton of space for Lazio to operate in. And again, I think we just need to be sharper. And I don't know what it's going to take to get us to that point where we're clicking on all cylinders. I did think that today was a little bit more of a step in the right direction. We're not creating enough, and when we do, I think it's a matter of confidence. I think when we do create those opportunities, we just need to finish them. Even Cheeto with some opportunities that ultimately got ruled offside, and you want to see him even when the ref ultimately determines it's an offside. You want to see the ball find the back of the net just for his confidence. But we didn't get to see a ton from him, and I know Cheeto Immobile has gotten maybe some flack for his play and lack of goal scoring, but I have to say it's not as if we're creating anything for Tati when he comes in. So I think the midfield needs to do better. I thought after we conceded that first goal, I was really, really nervous to see what the defense was going to do the rest of the match, because again, I thought that they were absolutely atrocious in that goal. But it was nice to see them tighten things up. Hisai could have been better today, but ultimately at the end of the day, the one goal was the only one we conceded. And I'd like to see us with a string of clean sheets, but at this point, we'll take one goal. We'll take giving up one goal and walk away with it at this point. So by and large, I thought it was a fine performance. I think a draw would have probably been the most fair, but here we are with all 3 points. So I don't know, and I certainly hope that we can see some of this fortune moving over into Serie A, because we need it, and we know this fixture list has been tough for us. And again, we've got Atalanta this Sunday, but here we are in Group E, Atletico Madrid with 4 points, and Lazio at 4 points, Feyenoord with 3, and Celtic at the bottom of the table. So, we sit at second in the group. Of course, we've got Feyenoord next. So that one is really the opportunity to set ourselves apart as a team with some ambition to get out of this group. But we've said it before. We've got to be a club that sees ourselves in this competition in multiple years and not just a one and done. So last thing I want to see is us get out of the group, flame out, and then struggle in Serie A. So we've got to be able to capitalize, get out of the group, feel good about it, and then we've got to start making some noise in Serie A. I see the question from somebody asking what the thoughts are as Kamada as a vice. Luis, I've said it. I started this pod early on saying it. I wanted to see Kamada in that role to start this match. I think he can play that role successfully, and we saw a glimpse of that today. And I hope that we maybe get to see some more of that against Atalanta. You know, we need to figure out that midfield, because that midfield is the key to everything. And they're not creating enough opportunities. They're not taking pressure off of our defense. There's oftentimes too much of a gap and too much space between our back line and our midfield. And then I think we are oftentimes so slow on the counter when we do receive the ball, you know, and a little bit of that is just a stylistic approach from Luis Alberto, who likes to take his time sometimes. But, you know, I think a player like Rovella, who's a lot quicker of a decision maker at that regista role, is always looking to find somebody. His head is on a swivel, and he's immediately looking to make a dangerous pass, because we're not often breaking the line right now with our passing. So yeah, for me, I would absolutely like to see something like, and what I like about Guendouzi is, he's a maniac, maybe not the most technically brilliant player in the world, but I think he covers a lot of space, and he runs, and Rovella doesn't get enough credit for what he does on the defensive side. So, pairing them with Akamada, I think would be interesting to see. So, big one for us, big 3 points. We can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. Great to see Pedro come in and make an impact. We know that his performances haven't been the greatest, and he's been coming off some injuries, and obviously he's older. So for him to come in and make a mark in Champions League again, it's beautiful to see. So we'll be here Sunday. Make sure you guys stay tuned. Check us out. We're on a ton of different social media platforms trying to crank out content for you guys. So, make sure to check us out on TikTok and Instagram and on Twitter. And then if you're looking for an audio version of this podcast, we're on all of the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. But subscribe, please help us grow. We want to be able to do a lot more, and we're excited to go on this journey with you guys. So, as always, sempre forza